Hello, welcome to the Creators Guild podcast. I'm Chris Howell, and with me,
Jared Lovelady.
and we are here to talk about all things creative. And we have back with us today,
Liz Verity.
yes, we're going to do another Learning with Liz, and she always has good topics for us. I wanted to ask you a question, Liz, right off the bat.
Okay.
You send out your email, you send out your lists of things to improve writing.
Yes.
And improve like all the aspects of writing. How do you come up with like a billion ideas of things to help?
Yeah, after the first 2 years of sending out something every week, I was starting to worry I might run out of something to say. But it's been surprisingly easy because once you cover kind of the broad basics, as I've learned more, I've also been able to pick up all these small details that I then do little clips on. So it hasn't actually been too hard. I mean, I guess you just have to keep learning. So I keep trying to read craft books and go to workshops and things like that and see what things kind of resonate with me and how I can share them.
Do you find that you get like you said, like going to conferences, going to fairs, going to events? Do most of your ideas come from learning from other people and their experiences? Do you have experiences where like you read our book and be like, well, that's crap. Here's another topic that I can talk about. They'll be like, hey, reader, or hey, writers, don't do this,
Yeah. So as far as conferences, I don't usually pull specifically what people present, but sometimes they'll say one thing that'll get me thinking of oh, I wonder how that works. And then I'll look into it more through books and research. And then I also usually do get some feedback from other writers that I just interact with, and they tell me what they're struggling with. And I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything on that yet. Maybe I should do that. Or I do a lot of critiques and editing. So if I see something that happens all the time and that I haven't covered yet, I'd be like, okay, this is a common practice that maybe, writers need to know to fix.
Yeah.
So yeah, I pull it from a little bit of everywhere.
Okay. Have there been any things, have there been things that you've come across in critiquing or editing or reviewing where it's something that maybe you hadn't considered before at all? Where you're just like, oh, wow, this is something that I had never even thought of. And it just pops up, pops into your head like, this is a whole new topic. This is a whole new avenue of potentially recommendations for writers.
Yeah. There's been a few critiques I've done. Usually it's when somebody does something really well and I find myself going, wow, this was so great. Like this dialogue scene or this fight scene or whatever. And I want to look into it and I kind of stop for a minute and I just kind of assess it and be like, okay, why is this so good? Why did it hit me so well? What did they do? And then usually I can pull things from that and go and study and be like, okay, I can maybe work on this or things like that.
So it's like so I work in manufacturing engineering and we do a lot of root cause analysis where it's something broke and there's fishbone diagrams, there's 5 why processes where you just keep asking why.
Yeah.
This broke. Well, why did it break? Well, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Then you just keep asking why until you get to this is the root cause. Yeah. And maybe you have to go down a couple different pathways, but you find out here's the root cause. So kind of like that, only instead of the 5 whys of something broke, the 5 whys of why was this so good?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I definitely do it the other way too, but because I've studied writing for a while, I usually know what not to do so I can immediately see why it's broke. But the other way is sometimes harder because there isn't one way to do it right. There's multiple. So that's why I really like digging into those good scenes and being like, okay, why did this work so well?
Have you had any experiences of digging in where you're like, wow, this is horrible? Well, but it doesn't fall into a specific category. Then you're like, why is this so horrible? Let me do another deep dive into the horribleness and see if I can fix it.
Not usually. Usually it's pretty evident, like if it's in the prose or flat characters or stiff dialogue. I mean, it's usually pretty obvious if there's something wrong, what's wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've had to do that quite as much.
Okay. Just curious. I figured as much. I figured they're probably, if you identify something's wrong, It's not like you're tasting soup and going, this is just missing something, and I can't put my finger on what
Yeah.
what seasoning I need to add. A
Yes.
little bit different with writing.
A little bit different, yeah. And I think it's because I've studied it so much too. When I was starting off, I think I maybe read some things where I didn't understand why I didn't like it. But now that I've studied it, I know the ingredients, so to speak, of the soup. So
Yeah,
it's really easy for me to be like, oh, this, that.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little different now. But I'm sure at the beginning, it took me a little bit longer to figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because Jared, I don't know if you thought about that, but we've talked about like things we want to discuss on our podcast, even,
Yeah.
and looking out into the future. We're like, there's a million topics out there. Which ones have not already been beaten into the ground?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of hard to pick. I usually have to kind of go with what my passion is at that moment or what
Yeah.
I'm learning kind of thing. Whatever sticks out makes me excited about it. Because there really is like so many topics, it's hard to narrow it down. And sometimes if you try to do a topic that you know is popular but you're not into, it's really hard to do it.
Yeah.
So I usually just kind of go with my gut.
I don't know. If I just went with my gut, we would talk about steaks and chocolate and
You could
pasta
do one on
a
cooking.
lot.
You could do one on cooking.
Well, we
I don't
want to
think you have.
Well, we've talked about writing about cooking.
Yes.
I don't think we've done one specifically about cooking or food.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have a friend who, or a colleague at work that on the side, he is actually a taster,
Oh.
like a restaurant. He writes reviews for restaurants and
That's cool.
stuff. He's a frequent, I think it's maybe at a monthly interval, he'll be on a local morning show and he goes in and talks about, well, here's the restaurants, here's the new foods, here's the new dishes. And he talks about what he likes and what he doesn't like. They'll bring dishes on and he tries them. And,
Huh.
So I'm like,
That's cool.
you have to come on the podcast
Yes.
and talk about your food,
Because
talk about
that's
that.
something that most people don't know anything about. To be cool to see exactly how it works and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So he said he would come on, but we just haven't coordinated and
Scheduled.
got it to jive yet. So
Yeah. Well, good. That'll be fun when it comes.
I know, right? Plus I want to be like, wait a minute, how do I do this gig?
Yes. How do I get paid to eat?
Exactly. If somebody can just be like, we need you to try this chocolate. Oh, and here's money. I'll be
Yes.
like, sold,
Yes.
done. I will do this.
Yeah, I've always heard of the ice cream flavor testers or whatever, the people that actually taste all the different flavors of ice cream. And I'm like, I need that job. I love
Right?
ice cream. Like, I could do that. I don't know how objective I can be. And that's probably the hard part. Like, maybe you lose the fun out of it, but I don't know. Like, it just sounds like a good job.
I wonder if you do you have a goblet and they put a scoop of Rocky Road in and you go swirl it and then and go,
All right.
the bouquet, and you have to let it sit and breathe for a little bit before, and then
Yeah.
you
Well,
put some Rocky Road in your mouth and swish it all around and then spit it out.
yeah. Yeah. Nope. Next one. Could be. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's a science to it. I've heard several people say something about like when you have the ice cream, you have to sit on the counter for so long and then you can have the full flavor of it. So there is a science to it. I don't know what it is.
There is like the flavors of things come out more at room temperature. Doesn't whether it's hot or it's cold.
Yeah.
If you eat, or at least closer to body temperature. The
Okay.
closer to your body temperature it is, the more you can taste.
Yeah.
Like,
Huh.
but also, who wants to eat food at room temperature?
Yeah. Okay. Cold or hot, not lukewarm.
Right. What's something that's good at room? Potato chips.
Yeah. Chips,
Potato
crackers,
chips are good
that
at room
kind of stuff.
temperature. Other than that,
I like things at room temperature, so
Like
Like ice
steak
cream?
and everything. Yeah.
not ice cream.
Ice cream soup at room temperature.
I like my foods closer to room temperature. I don't like real hot food. I don't like real cold food.
Oh, okay.
so I like the hot, so hot that it's almost burning the inside of my mouth, and so cold that it's almost making my teeth ache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I need to go that extreme, but
I'm like, a cold soda or a cold, any kind of drink. If it's like just on the verge of that catalyst state where, you you shake it or trigger it or something and it turns into ice mush,
Yeah.
slushy. Like just before that, that's how cold I want stuff that I drink.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm not as picky about that. Actually, water is one thing I like drinking room temperature. Other drinks need to be cold or hot, depending on the drink.
Yeah. We were having this conversation because I have my water bottle and I had to add my flavoring to it because I'm a baby. And I'm like, gross. Water. Ew, who wants to drink that?
Must have flavor.
I know. So I have my flavors right here that I put in.
That works.
So today, now that we've kind of rambled on here for a little bit,
Yes.
you
that
have
was
an
good.
actual topic that you want to talk to us about today.
Yeah, I thought it might be fun to discuss plot twists and plot reveals. This is one thing that I have grown to learn more about because I always thought they were the same thing and they're not.
That's what I was going to ask you is what's
Yeah,
the difference
they're
between
a
a
little different.
plot twist and a plot reveal?
Yes. Okay, so first, like commonality wise, there's really 2 points that are common. Is that they're supposed to make the readers or the audience feel shock or awe kind of thing. It's supposed to be surprising.
Both are supposed to be surprising.
Yes, both reveals and twists are supposed to, it's supposed to be kind of like that moment of, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
which you can predict them. So sometimes that's not always the case, but that's what you want to come from them. And then the other thing is that they both have to be foreshadowed. It's not something that you tell a story and then randomly throw something in the end to shock your audience. It has to be laid out beforehand so that if they didn't catch it, they can look back and be like, oh, okay, I see all of the hints that led up to this point. So those are the two commonalities. But besides that, that's kind of where it ends.
So like getting to the end and just being like the whole story, monsters, aliens, fighting, all the things, and then it's like, oh, the person woke up and that was all a dream.
Yes.
That's
the example of a really bad one.
yeah.
Yeah. Because you want that sense of satisfaction at the end of if they got it, then they have that reward of, oh my goodness, I totally called it. And if they didn't, you want them to be able to look back and be like, I see all of the moments that led up to this. Or if they don't, if they do a reread, they then see them like, oh wow, there it is kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
that's really what you're going for is that shock, but then also the satisfaction at the end.
Okay. So that's where both of them are you need the aha factor.
Yes.
You need the both of the lead up, the what the heck? You just said it and my brain just went
Lead up to
you need the lead up and you need like inferences along the way.
Oh, foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Yeah.
Yes.
I write books.
It's okay. It's okay. Everybody forgets sometimes.
So yeah, you need some kind of a point of reference early on for both
Yes.
and throughout the story.
Yes.
I like the phrase of not spoon feeding. You don't want to spoon feed people, but for both, you do need something along the way.
Yeah, so it's the difference between telegraphing and foreshadowing. So telegraphing is where you are blatantly saying this is going to happen, like you make it really obvious.
Yeah.
And then foreshadowing is more of like there's hints and stuff that if you're really paying attention, you can catch on and try to put all the pieces together yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely want to foreshadow and not telegraph what's going on.
Yeah. But you need both of those, whether you're doing plot reveal or plot twist. You want to sprinkle those in along the way.
Yeah, you want to
not
have
just
the
be like,
foreshadowing.
aha, aliens.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, so okay, so the differences between the two.
Yes.
Because the commonality is really easy to cover. There's not very many. But the difference is, so with a plot reveal, it's basically changing expectations for the future.
Okay.
So you're kind of changing how a person thinks something's going to happen. So it's like information revealed, but it doesn't change the past. I mean, it might kind of change the past, but it more makes you wonder what's going to happen in the future. So how you do it is you ask a question and then you let the person try and figure out the answer. So a lot of mysteries are like this. So like somebody's dead.
Let the character or the
Yes.
reader.
Both.
Both. Okay.
Usually, so you want the reader asking the question, or you want the narration or the character to ask the question, and then the reader's going to try and figure it out. Now, your protagonist can try and figure it out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're kind of in place of the reader, so the reader follows along with them. So, but you can also just have it as the reader trying to figure it out, and the protagonist isn't. So you can do it either way.
Okay.
But it's really popular in mysteries because you'll have like somebody murdered and it's like, who's the killer? And that's the question.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do all these hints as you go forward. And then at the end, there's a reveal of who the killer is, and you're either right or wrong.
Okay.
So,
And that's plot reveal.
yes, that's a plot reveal.
So, a question about that, and maybe this aligns with what you're talking about, but what about parts of stories where, let's say, you have characters and things happen to the characters, and you get to see other characters, like you have your protagonist and the protagonist and their group of people that things are happening to, and they're experiencing, and they get led down a certain path. But then the reader gets to see the antagonist is doing X, Y, or Z. And you blatantly know, like as the reader, you're like, oh no, the protagonist is going the wrong direction.
Yes.
Like, you know, the antagonist is trying to take over the world, and they think it's a different antagonist. But the reader knows, no, it's this guy.
Yeah.
Like, does that fall under that same
No. So you're not shocking the reader at all with it. You're giving them that information. So instead of it being a reveal or a twist, it's just adding tension.
Okay.
So it creates that because we know what's right and the protagonist doesn't. So it's kind of that moment you want to shake them and be like, no, it's this.
Yeah.
So that's creating the tension for the reader, which is also good and pulls the reader along. But it's not really a reveal or a twist because you're not trying to withhold that from them until the end.
Okay. So plot twists and plot reveals specifically have to do with information that is directly withheld from the reader. It might be inferred or foreshadowed, but both the reader and the protagonists, they don't know the answer. It's your job as the reader to try to figure it out.
Yes.
Or just sit on the edge of your seat until it's revealed at the end.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. The reader has to be in the dark in order for a reveal or twist to work, because that's what it's about. It's not about the story characters getting this. Well, they usually are shocked too, but it's more about shocking the audience.
Okay.
So, but yes.
Okay, so back to the plot reveal.
Yes. So a plot reveal, it can be foreshadowed in two different ways. You can use ambiguity, which is basically where you plant hints that are very clear, like here's a hint, but it can be interpreted in multiple ways. So you don't know how to take it. So I don't know if you've ever seen those pictures where it's like black and white and you're like, what do you see? A man or an old woman kind of thing. And they're both there, but it's the perception of the person looking to see what they see.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with this, is you're going to plant clues, but you're not going to actually tell them how to interpret it.
Okay.
So, and then you're going to lead them down a path to say like, okay, all three of these ways are possible. And then it's the reader's job to figure out which one they think is correct. And at the end, they're either right and they're like, oh yeah, I got it. Or, oh no, I missed it, but I get how it works now, or something like that. So that's one way of doing it with the ambiguity. The other way is to use vagueness, which is a little bit harder to do. It's more of a passive reveal because the reader's not going to be able to figure it out at the end. Because you're kind of giving them a blurry picture and then trying to make them guess what it actually is.
So with that specific aspect of like, is there stories that I've read where, or books, whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this falls in the same in that category. I kind of see it as a bit of a cop out.
Yeah.
Where it's, I'm the character and things are viewed from my perspective as the story goes along. Yeah. And I pick this notepad up and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I put the notepad down and I go on, and I, as the reader, am like, well, wait a minute. I get to see everything this character sees,
Yeah.
except for this key that now the character knows more than I do.
Yes. Yeah, that's I agree it's frustrating.
Okay.
Um
But like, does that fall under the vagueness
yes.
rule?
It falls under the vagueness rule, and you have to be very careful when you do vague because it does aggravate a lot of readers. So you don't want to be vague about everything. What I say is if you want to do it with a reveal and make it kind of a passive reveal where they know something's off but they can't figure it out,
Yeah.
you give them all the clues very clearly, but then you wait till the very end to give them one final clue that snaps the whole picture together. So it's kind of like putting in the last puzzle piece and then like, oh, that's the picture. So that's kind of how you want to do it if you're going to go the vague route, because like you said, if you start the story off and they have a notebook and they see a clue and the reader doesn't get to know what it is, and then they do it again and again and again, the reader's just going to get frustrated if they never get anything. So you want to give them clues, but clues that don't form a whole picture until they have that linchpin information that is then given to them at the end, and then they can be like, oh, which in that case you can have the protagonist figure it out at the end as well, so that it doesn't feel like we're just withholding what the character knows from the reader.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember which it was a mystery book that I read.
Say Agatha Christie is known for her vagueness. It frustrates me to no end because most of the time you can't figure it out, because at the very end either Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot, whichever it is, will be like, oh yes, but this, and we're like, we weren't even told about that.
Yeah.
And so it always aggravates me.
There was
but
one
it's good.
like that example that I gave of picking up a notebook. There's literally it's a short story, and it's in a series of it wasn't a Ray Bradbury thing, but it was like I can't remember the author or the story now.
Okay.
That's kind of driving me crazy. But it is like a murder mystery story.
Yeah.
And the detective character you're like, okay, this could be anybody in this story. And they're trying to figure things out, and you get to see literally every clue. And the detective is like postulating which direction it could go. And you're like, yeah, you're right. It could be this, it could be that, whatever. And then the detective literally finds a note and reads it, and you don't get to read the note with the detective. You saw everything else, and all you get is the detective read a note and then is like, aha. And then they go on and you're like, wait, what did the note say? And then it gets around and there's a confrontation, and then they're like, well, the note said it was like Timothy, Swanson. Yeah. He spelled out that he was the murderer. And I'm like, what kind of garbage is that?
Yeah.
Like, literally, when you finally find out the text of the note, you're like, well, the whole rest of the story was pointless. The detective kept doing things when this note actually told him everything he needed to know to solve the case.
Oh.
And then you just went on blindly for like several more experiences and chases and everything until I got to the end, and you're like, that was a garbage reveal.
Yes.
And he knew about it way back here and then just wasted. He's a terrible detective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example of how vagueness should not be used.
Yeah. I was like, it wasn't Bradbury. It wasn't Alfred Hitchcock, but it was somebody trying to, in that same time period, trying to write something like them. And I don't remember because at that point, I was like, I'm never reading anything from this person again.
Yeah.
And I never did. And I don't even remember what their name is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and one of the things is the older books, like Agatha Christie and stuff, back then, they didn't do close POVs, really. Mm-hmm. It was very omniscient feeling most of the time.
Yeah.
So they did a lot of vagueness in that way. And it worked for the audience back then because that's what they expected. Nowadays, we all expect, I'm in their head. I should know everything they know. So it's really hard to work vague into our story. Yeah. So you really do have to be careful because nowadays people get real aggravated about it.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I was just thinking about in describing what you were describing from an omniscient perspective. If you never got to experience the character's emotions or feelings, like you never saw the perspective inside anybody's head, and it was just an omniscient narrator, almost like there's a closed circuit camera up in the corner of every room.
Yes. And
you're just viewing, then you could be like, she walked into the room and she picked up a notebook and read blah, 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 whatever. Like, well, you don't get to see what it is because the camera doesn't have that angle on it.
Yep.
But that's kind of like the found footage video movies. that are out there,
Mm-hmm.
and they drive me insane.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Because I'm
guessing.
like, yeah, there's a lot of guessing, and most of the found footage is like they're very bad at what we've talked about before in scenes of the person walks out the doorway and in front of their house, like outside their house, is open acreage. There's no trees, there's no bushes, there's no anything. And they look around and they heard a noise. And then they turn slightly, and all of a sudden, monsters right there. And I'm like, where did this come from? It's like a 10-foot tall monster thing that is like snarling and growling at them. And you're like,
They came through open field.
yeah. Were they invisible?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Like there's no, or bad guy, or the open parking lot where the car is parked way out in the middle of nowhere
yes.
and they walk and there's nobody around. The camera pans the entire parking lot and you can see there's nobody under the car. And then all of a sudden they go to put the key, they take the key out and then they get grabbed and you're like, this is the sneakiest ninja person on the planet.
Yeah.
Where did they come from?
Or super speed, one of the two.
Yeah. So things like that with found footage where they try to be so vague
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, you just ruined it.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
And that's why it's better usually, like, especially if you're starting out, to use ambiguity, because then you're saying, hey, here's a clue. You know they can interpret it, like, say, 3 different ways.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep giving clues that validates each option,
Yeah.
I mean, not all the way, but, like, enough that you can keep someone believing whichever way they chose at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then at the end, when you reveal it, it's a lot more believable than just being like, I'm just not going to tell you.
And that, like, I enjoy that method
Yes.
much more.
Yeah, I love being able to figure it out. So, like, for me, if you don't give me all the clues, I get upset. But if you gave me all the clues and I didn't get it, then I'm impressed with you. So it's one or the other. It's like, you don't want me to be upset with you, then give me all the clues.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I agree. Those are usually better. So examples, just for anyone listening or watching, there is going to be spoilers because we are talking about reveals and twists at the end of stories. So if you don't want to hear them, skip ahead or listen to it after you watch or read it, whichever you want to do.
Yeah. You're going to get the bump, bump, bump right now.
Yes, exactly. So like one example, a movie that I want to say recently came out, it might have been a while ago. Knives Out. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay. So in that you have the patriarch of the family is dead, and they assume it's a suicide, but then they start to think that maybe it might be a murder, and so they're like, investigating all these people in the house. So you know it has to be one of these people, and you try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So they don't pick somebody outside of the house because that would be a bad reveal if you investigate all these people and then don't. They use the ambiguity of everybody's situation to kind of build up and be like, okay, they could have done it because of this. This person could have done it because of this.
Yeah.
So you have all of that to build it up. And then at the end, you figure out who's actually the culprit of the crime.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually succeed in killing him. And so that's kind of, it's a reveal and a twist.
Yeah.
Because you figure out, like, you start out saying, okay, who killed him? And you figure that out. And he ends up having actually killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
But he did that because he thought somebody else had already successfully poisoned him to kill him.
Yeah.
Which they hadn't. So it's a reveal because you do figure out what happened in the end, but it's also a twist because it's not what you thought it was. You were led to believe it's a murder and it's really not. But the opening scene is them thinking it's a suicide. So you know ahead of time, oh, it could have been a suicide, but you immediately dismiss it because you're like, oh, it's a murder mystery.
Yeah.
So I thought they did that really well.
Yeah. It's like you took the movie Clue and Romeo and Juliet. And
yes.
not
romantically, but yeah.
But the aspect of
yes.
Oh no, he killed it. He's dead. Well, I'm gonna take this poison, and then oh no, she's dead. Well, I guess I'm gonna kill myself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So they did a really good job of that. But so I liked that one. I didn't know if you already talked a little bit. Jared, have you come up with any like examples of reveals that kind of came to your mind?
Not really.
It's hard to come up with a good. I mean, like I said, reveals can pretty much be anything. So like any of the crime shows, like Castle, when somebody dies at the beginning and him and the police officer have to figure out by the end who did it.
Yeah.
So like
Every cozy mystery that's out there.
exactly, yeah. Every mystery, every cozy mystery, like even some of the kind of like internal stories where you watch a person live their life and you know something big and traumatic happened in the past, but you don't know what.
Yeah.
That even is a reveal at the end where you get that, okay, we've had flashbacks this whole time. Now we understand what really happened. Which I'm trying to think. I don't actually have an example of that right now, but
What's a good flashback that
trying to figure out what happened. What's the no, that's not gonna work. I don't know. I don't have one off the top of my head. I should have thought of
Yeah.
that beforehand, but I
I'm
didn't.
trying to think what's a good one that you it's something that happened in the past and you find out what was the traumatic event.
Born. Have
Oh
you
yeah.
seen Born
Yeah,
Identity?
the Bourne
Yeah.
series.
So like yeah, he wakes up or he's found floating in the ocean. Doesn't remember anything, and so you spend the whole movie trying to figure out why was he there? Why was he shot? Was somebody trying to kill him? Was he
Yeah.
the bad guy? Was somebody else the bad guy? Yeah. So that in the end is a reveal to figure out okay, what really happened to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, not just a who done it, but like what was the like you have amnesia.
Yeah. Yeah. That one's pretty
What
easy.
about that kind of goes along with a totally different aspect, but the Majestic
I don't think it's
with
that one.
Jim Carrey, where again spoilers. So it's around the time of the McCarthy hearings,
Okay.
where they were looking for communists and whatnot, and then you start with like Jim Carrey wakes up on a beach,
Okay.
or like on a not on a beach, but on like the side of water, and people find him and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you came back!" And there's a picture of us, Jim Carrey, and they think like they thought he died. So many people died in World War II from this one town,
Oh.
and they think this guy thinks it's his son. Like the percentage of people, like the town got an award from the president and everything because of the number of their sons who went to war and didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the whole town is celebrating. They're like, he came back. And they're like, we don't know how he came back, and now he's here and he has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
And I think it's his dad has this movie theater, the Majestic,
Okay.
and he let it like fall apart and everything. Well, now that his son's back, they bring it back to life.
Okay.
And so the whole thing, but then you find out later, like the reveal is he actually was a big time, like he was involved in a reporter and stuff, and they were going after him for having communist ties.
Oh.
And he like got drunk and wrecked his car off a bridge and did have amnesia.
Yeah.
Eventually it came back, and then they were like, no, he just looks like this guy's son, and he happened to wake up,
Oh.
you know, be found at this town, you know.
Yeah.
But like he was somebody they'd been looking for, you know, trying to track down so he could be questioned in front of Congress and whatnot about his ties
Yeah.
to communism and everything.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a, you know, it has its ups and downs, but
Yeah. Right.
that whole lost past, what is this,
Yes.
everything, it finally comes out at the end, and then he gets at least some of his memories back,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yeah, and that works. And so, yeah, reveals are pretty much anything that asks a question at the beginning. So if there is a question, you know, what happened in the past, who killed them, that anything like that, then it's gonna be a reveal at the end.
Yeah.
So that's plot reveals. Now plot twists. They actually change the understanding of the story. So plot reveals change expectations. Like going forward, you're like, oh wow, okay, so this is what happened, kind of thing. Plot twist is more of you look back on the story and you're like, I see it in a different light now.
Yeah.
So it affects the past instead of the future. Reveals affect the future, twists affect the past. So this one, you can't really use vagueness a whole lot with it. You usually have to do ambiguity. And that's because you don't ask a question. You plant all these hints that can be interpreted in various ways, but you don't tell the reader or the audience to actually question it. You just say, okay, this is what's happening. And because of how you set it up, you expect them to see it one way when you really mean it another way. And then at the end, when it's revealed, it's like, oh, okay. So that's what all of that meant. So you still have to have that foreshadowing, but like I said, you don't ask a question because you don't want to draw attention to it.
Yeah.
So some examples. I'm assuming everyone has seen it by now, but Sixth Sense.
I was gonna say, I see dead people.
Yes,
Is that the
exactly. Yeah, you see it the whole time. You know, this kid's getting therapy because he sees dead people. And you see that like nobody's talking to the counselor and different things like that. But you never question it because this kid sees dead people. He's clearly insane, and obviously this guy's here to help him. And so when you get to the end and you realize, oh, the counselor is actually dead,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh my goodness, like it all makes sense. Like going back and looking at it all, you can see clearly, okay, that's what that was, and that's what that was. But again, you didn't tell the audience to ask, is this person dead or alive? Like if you did that, it would have given away the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, even like thinking back through when that, like watching that movie and being like, wait a minute, was there ever, did they make a mistake anywhere where they indicated like his mom, the little boy's mom, might have been aware,
Yeah.
of he's seeing a counselor,
Yeah.
because outside of this counselor, he's not seeing anybody,
Nope.
throughout the whole show. So I'm like, okay, is there any time where they dropped something that shouldn't have been there? And I can't think of
You
any.
couldn't get it. Yeah. I was gonna say, no, I don't remember seeing anything. But yeah, and that's kind of fun because it's unexpected, so it's usually more of a shock to the audience because they weren't thinking they needed to expect anything.
Yeah.
So another one is The Illusionist.
Mhm.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
So the magician basically is in love with somebody else's wife. And the husband is a horrible guy. So they start out the story with he kills her, the husband kills her, and the magician's, upset about it or whatever. And he's trying to bring that to light of like, hey, this guy killed her and I want retribution or whatever. So you go through all of these scenes of him doing his illusions, of blame this guy, of turning the community against this one guy. And then in the end, it's like, she's not dead.
Yeah.
His illusion was that he killed her and made the husband think that he killed her so that he would feel guilty and that would reflect on him whenever the truth supposedly came out. And then he would have to pay for the crime. But in the end, the magician and then the woman get to live happily ever after kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but that's another one where it's like, you don't know, you think he is killed. So it's more of like question of like, who killed him? And when you figure that out, it's like, okay, how is he going to frame him? How is he going to set this all up to work? And you don't expect in the end that he gets his happily ever after.
Yeah. Have you seen Gone Girl?
I've read the book. I haven't seen the movie, but I know the story.
So does that, I was trying to think, because I'm like, in the movie, I don't remember if they held the movie up to like how the book went.
Book-wise, yes.
But like book-wise, like that, when she comes back, because in the book, she's not dead. Like you find that out.
Well, the book is written as journal entries.
Yeah.
So you don't really know if either of them are alive or dead.
Yeah.
Because it's just like reading past communication. But yeah, you're definitely like everything both of them say can be taken in two different ways.
Yeah.
So that ambiguity that you kind of assume that he killed her. And yeah, so when that's revealed, it's very much a twist of like, oh my goodness, like we didn't know to ask that because her thing says he's coming after me.
Yeah.
Like you are told this is what's going to happen. You aren't asked to be like, okay, who killed her? Like,
Yeah. But when you get to the point where like, she's writing, like she's living in the little place, the people come and try to rob her, and then she goes back,
Yeah.
whatnot. Like once you get to that point, you know she's alive. But then they have the other part where now she comes back,
Hmm.
you know, and meets back up with him,
Yes.
and then they have to like play it all off. It's like, and you're like, wait, what?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna be happily married and have a kid now.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, where you're like, wait a minute, this is like, these people are insane.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. There's that she did a great job with the suspense in that book.
Yeah,
And
because yeah, for a long time you think she's dead, and you're
Mhm.
like, did he murder her? I don't know if he did.
Yeah, because he's acting totally innocent. Like they both act totally innocent. So you're
Yeah,
kind of like, wait a minute. But we sympathize with her.
yeah,
So we're like, oh yeah, he probably did it and he's just trying to write it off. And now he's feeling bad about it. And
yeah.
yeah, so
But then
it's
after you find out she's alive, then you're like, wait a minute,
she's manipulating
she's
him.
manipulating him and putting him through all of this. Oh gosh, dang it. Well,
Yeah.
now they're gonna come back. He's gonna get vengeance or whatever, and then she comes back, and then you're like, wait, she like they're trapped now.
Yeah. It's
Like,
like she wants to still have the relationship
yeah,
and he doesn't, but he wants a kid and she already has a kid down the way. So it's like, well, I guess we're stuck in this.
yeah, and like all that they have like kind of holding over each other's heads. They're like,
Yes.
we can't really. Neither of us can do anything. It will ruin our lives.
Yeah. If one goes down, the other will take the other with them.
Exactly.
So it's just,
So it's
yeah,
the
crazy.
the battle of the roses from
Yes.
like that's what it's like.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That
Only
one was a good
to
twist.
the extreme.
Yes. Absolutely. Definitely a good twist. That one was. Yeah. So that's the difference between reveals and twists. Kind of as I pointed out with Knives Out, they can be done together. If it's done well. And one of them, which I kind of like to point out because I think it's kind of cool that Disney did one, but Frozen.
Mhm.
It asks the question at the beginning when Anna's heart is being slowly frozen, she's going to die. It takes true love, an act of true love, in order to break the spell.
Yeah.
And you've already set up with this, oh, she has this guy she's engaged to, and then she has Hans. And it's like, wait a minute, like we have this kind of person we're starting to like, and this guy we're engaged to. Which one's the true love? And
Yeah.
you kind of like, oh no, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And then she tries the guy she's engaged to and doesn't work. And so we're like, okay, it's the other guy. And like, we all knew it the whole time. We're like, obviously he's the true love, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. And then right at the end where she's about to like freeze herself into death, she steps in to save her sister.
Yeah.
And then that's the act of true love that saves her.
Yeah.
It's the sister. And so it was great because our society is trained to think true love means a romantic love that lasts forever.
Yeah.
And it's not. It could be familial. And so showing that and having that twist of like, oh my goodness, like we were expecting this and then they just yanked the rug out from underneath us. So
Yeah.
I thought that one was super well done for especially a cartoon.
And then after that, she had an icicle shaped scar on her head,
Oh yes.
and she
Yes.
couldn't be cursed.
Just like Harry Potter.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, so that was one that was done pretty well, I think. That's
A side note, while we were talking about the true love thing, because we like to go down rabbit holes here,
yes,
is
of course.
have you heard the fan theory about Snow White?
No.
Like in the story, when it says when Snow White, you get to the end and all the dwarves are sad, and it said Snow White was beautiful even in death,
Hmm.
and that when the prince came, and like, well, how would a kiss wake her up and everything? Though the fan theory is like she was actually dead,
Yeah.
and the prince was actually like death coming to take her away to the land of death,
Oh.
and the whole waking up thing and everything was the final kiss of death.
Yeah, going
come.
into the afterlife.
Yes.
Interesting.
And it's funny if you look at the story element, at least in the movie, in the the what was it, 1939
Yeah.
Snow White
Something like that.
movie, you're like, yeah, that totally fits.
Yeah. That's funny.
Like, yep, they rode off, and it even shows like the symbology of when they ride off, when he takes her and rides off together, they don't go to a castle. there's a golden shining city on a hill that's like, or shining city up in the clouds.
Yeah.
That's what they ride off toward. That's
Ah,
what he takes her off toward. So like
now I have to watch
all
it
the
again
symbolism
just
and
to
everything
like
is
look.
there to be like, oh no, they're dead. You know, when they said happily ever after, it was literally
Ever after.
ever after.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's funny. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at that now because I'm sure well, I don't know. I don't know if I've actually read the original fairy tale
I haven't.
to know if there was undertones of that. But even if the animators just decided to make that their own undertones for fun, like that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So, very nice.
So could be an interesting, you know. It's kind of
Yeah.
like there's a fan fiction of Lord of the Rings, and it's when they get to the very end, and the elves are getting on the boat.
Yes.
Have you seen
With
this?
the ring. I think
With the
we talked
ring?
about this last
Oh,
time.
maybe we did.
Yeah,
I'm
about
like, that would have been such a good twist.
Yes.
And whoever pieced it together, it was amazing the way they pieced that together.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Where he looks and gives
quite
them that weird
inventive.
little smile. And they're all like, huh? And then it shows his hand, and he's got the ring.
Yep. Like, yes, I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that
oh,
would have been
twist.
interesting. Yeah, and that would have worked because it's set up the whole time is that he's getting more and more attached to the ring and he can't let it go. So technically, it could have been a twist if Tolkien
Yeah.
didn't want a happy ending
Yeah.
or a somewhat happy ending. I don't think the ending was super happy,
Or
anyways.
a
But
foreshadowed,
yeah,
you know.
next coming up kind of thing.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. So, but yeah, very cool. So last thing is that how do you pull off or how do you lay out, I guess I should say, reveals and twists?
Yeah.
And I am not an expert on it, but I've talked to some thriller writers who are all about, the plot and twist. I mean, thrillers and mysteries, they do
Yeah.
that a lot. And according to that genre, they say that for the first 50% of the book, you don't do no reveals, no twists. You're just trying to set the story, ground the reader in the world, that kind of thing. And then at the 50% mark, you can throw in a reveal or twist if you want to kind of shift it. So Gone Girl does that. It's like, oh, she comes back or she's not really dead,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So you can do that. And then you can put one at the 85% mark and then the 95% mark. Generally, most people say 3 is the max you want to do. You can technically do more. You just got to make sure that you don't overdo it because if you're constantly like, but wait, like you start sounding like those info commercials where it's like, okay, this is annoying. And the reader gets confused because they can't keep up with the shifts because what you're doing is shifting a story. Every time you do a reveal or a twist, you're telling the reader you have to look at everything differently now.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing that over and over again, they're going to get real confused. So you want to kind of keep it lower. And you can just have one at the end if you want, at that 95% mark at the climax, be like, ta-da, like,
Yeah.
Kind of like the illusionist does. But
Well, that's Sixth Sense.
yes.
You don't get. It's just all of a sudden you're like, he's dead the whole time. What?
The end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you can just do the one, but if you wanted to have it kind of full of that, like most thrillers and mysteries are, usually they do those kind of at those 3 different percentages.
Yeah.
And that seems to be most effective with the readers and the audience. So, but yeah, so it's fun. I like plot reveals and twists. I like to have them in my story just because it's fun, basically, pulling one over on the audience.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. So
Yeah. I was trying to think of some examples or trying to think of what's an example of like don't do like the plot reveal. We talked about the being vague, and a bad example of being vague is we're just not going to tell you
yes.
just because. Are there examples of plot twists that you can think of where you're like, that's a terrible plot twist?
So plot twists are usually going to go bad if they didn't have any foreshadowing. So if you follow a whole story and then you throw in something randomly at the end to shock the readers, that is usually when it's going to be a bad one. If it's foreshadowed, then it's not necessarily going to be a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Try to think of one that does that. I know I've seen them before, especially in movies, and I'll be like, that wasn't even in there. But they were bad, so I probably forgot them.
Yeah, that's the thing about bad, if it's a bad story,
Yeah.
unless it's so bad that it becomes like cult
Yes.
or something like that,
It makes you
usually
real
just
mad.
forget.
Yes. I can't think of like when it's specific. I can't remember what it is. I can't think of a time where it was kind of. It might have been a Stephen King book, to be honest, because he's kind of known for that. But like the story's set up and it's this kind of thrill intense, and you're trying to ask a question, or you're not trying to ask a question. You're trying to figure out how the guy's going to save the day at the end, I think.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like there's something supernatural comes in and is like, boom, saved kind of thing. And it's supposed to be a shock of like, this exists and whatever, but it's not because it was never foreshadowed. So it just
Yeah.
feels like you threw it in there to fix a story you didn't want to fix at the end.
That's the argument I've made with, and we keep bringing it up. I know I keep bringing it up, is Stephen King's writings.
Yeah, and that's why I said it might have been him because he is known for that. I mean, he is a very I'm not dissing him. He's a talented author, does great character stuff. But like, yeah, his endings are kind of known for the Deus Ex Machina, where they just throw in something and it's like,
Yeah.
boom, fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much, it's typically not because magic. It's more like because aliens.
Yeah.
What?
Yes. Oh, that makes me think. There was a sci-fi book that did that, where there was this big thing. Oh, what was it? There was this threat to a community, and they were trying to figure it out and beat it and figure out who's behind it and stop it before the community was destroyed. And then at the end, they figured out it was an AI machine, and that was not foreshadowed at all. And I'm like, okay, why did we just throw in AI at the end? It's like they didn't want to have somebody that actually had a plot
Yeah.
that did it all. It was just AI wants to take over the world. I can't remember what it is now, but
Which could be fine if
it was foreshadowed.
if there's some kind of something that makes you question along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That like, wait a minute, how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Well, the Matrix movies. Have you watched the Matrix?
A really long time ago.
So I liked the first one. I liked, as they went further and further along, the whole idea of him being like the chosen one.
Yeah.
Well, he was like the chosen one inside the Matrix, where within the Matrix he was able to suspend reality.
Yeah.
Or suspend the reality of the Matrix to the point where the rules of the Matrix didn't apply to him anymore, because he could disassociate. He's plugged in, and he didn't get lost, or he could figure out how to become unlost in the maze that is the Matrix, and see through the maze. And that's what gave him the ability he becomes Superman in this virtual world that doesn't actually have a Superman.
Yes.
But outside, when he's unplugged from the Matrix, the people there are all just humans. Like, there isn't another level to unplug from. There are machines, and the machines are trying to kill the people, and they want to fight they're raging against the machine.
Yeah.
But then you get further into the Matrix, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. Now he has like some kind of supernatural telepathic powers that he can communicate. And you're like, wait, what's going on? And he can put his hand up and control and stop the machines and make them explode outside the Matrix. Like, they don't have self-destruct buttons.
Yeah.
It's not like the machine that created itself and this intelligence that runs the whole Matrix and everything was like, I'm gonna put C4 on all of these pieces of machinery just in case any of them ever go rogue and I need to explode them.
Yeah.
Like, by what mechanism did he have the power to stop these things, control them outside the Matrix, and then like make them even blow up? Like, where did this even come from?
Yeah.
What happened?
Just threw it in there.
Yeah. So it went from this, okay, you have God power inside the Matrix because you're literally in a virtual world where if you overcome that aspect of being sucked into a false this false vision of how things are, you can literally rise above it and see things as they are, and that gives you the power to do whatever you want inside a virtual world. You can control and manipulate that world because it's subject to your influence on it. And then when you get into the real world, like, that doesn't mean you suddenly are magic,
Yeah.
or that you're suddenly telepathic or whatever. But that's kind of where they went with it. Like, he gets his eyes burned out, and then he climbs up, and then he's able to see everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Just add powers. It works.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe I missed something. Maybe it was like, well, actually, he has some kind of Neuralink type thing that's spread over his brain, and it kicked into that.
Yeah.
And he's able to tap into Wi-Fi.
There you go.
Or Bluetooth, connect to all these things, and now he can. I still don't know how he was able to make them explode.
Or maybe they're trying to hint that world is still in the Matrix.
Maybe.
Kind of like, what's the other one where they spin the top and it's like, is it real or not?
Inception.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe they're trying to hint at that. Like,
I mean, I thought about that. I was like, maybe it's a Matrix in a Matrix.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Who knows?
You're
Maybe
in
it was just bad plot.
To quote Rick and Morty, you're inside a simulation, inside a simulation, inside another simulation. These aliens try to capture Rick's secrets by kidnapping him and putting him inside a simulation. But then he gets out of that one and finds out he's actually inside another simulation. But he gets out of that one and finds out he's still inside a third simulation. Because they knew he was smart enough to
get out of one.
And maybe
two.
even two.
Yeah.
But then he has to get out of the third one.
Wow.
And like each layer the first layer is like, okay, this is pretty shoddy. It's obviously a simulation. The second layer is like, oh, this doesn't seem like a simulation. But if he does figure it out, the third layer is not. I'm
definitely not a simulation.
definitely not a simulation.
That's great.
So yeah, very Inception like.
Yes,
So
definitely.
maybe that's the answer, but I didn't get that from the Matrix. That the twist was not.
And it probably
you're still
isn't.
inside the Matrix.
Yeah, probably not. They just probably had bad screenwriters at that point, trying to milk the series as much as they can, kind of thing. So.
Well, the answer was, the end was written by Stephen King, and he was like, because aliens. That's what they threw in there, maybe.
Yep. There you go.
Because supernatural. I don't know.
Yeah. So, well, very good. I was trying to think back on your guys' first book. And you guys actually have a plot reveal at the end with Corvin. Because you have that question, from the very beginning of, okay, someone's trying to assassinate Tuara. Who is it?
Yeah.
So you have that plot reveal at the end of, it's Corvin.
Yeah.
But then you guys also have a plot twist. And that's, he's not actually trying to kill Tuara. He was trying to kill people around her or just make her scared kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you guys kind of did the 2-in-1 ending there, which was cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's been dead the whole time.
Yeah. No, it's not like a big epic, but it's an adventure. It's not supposed to be a mystery thriller,
Yeah.
But even, outside of that genre, you can do it. And it kind of gives that punch ending and also kind of the satisfaction of like, oh, now we know kind of thing.
Well, and when we first wrote that, we first revealed who Corvin was in like chapter 6.
Yes.
And when you came back, because we had that letter that he wrote and communication and whatnot.
Yeah.
And one of the things at your suggestion was like, you should save this.
Yeah.
So we took that whole chapter out and then rewrote a buttload of stuff.
Yes. But it worked out well.
But yes. Yeah, we were satisfied with like, and putting that in at the end, like they had to have fun writing The Sixth Sense.
Yes.
And come back, and especially like I'm picturing those scenes at the end when it flashes back to, because at the beginning there's a guy in his bathroom and he gets shot. And then it shows him, now all of a sudden it appears to be later.
Yeah.
And he's going to meet with this little boy.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. that was a traumatic thing. He changed, and now his marriage is on the rocks. They're having issues because of that.
Yep.
You get to the end, and you're like, oh yeah, they were definitely having issues because of that. And she was definitely like dating other people because then it flashes back to him getting shot, her dropping the ring. It's cold. It's,
Yep.
when he was going to the table at dinner, she was sitting there alone, and it's just all the scenes, and they're all scenes that we've already seen.
Yeah.
And it flashes back to
But now you see him anew.
this scene, this scene, this scene, this scene, and you're like, yeah, they're all completely different now. A completely different story
Yes.
than what we were told throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the cool part, is you can kind of change the perception of the audience
Yeah.
and how they see those scenes.
Yeah. Because we dropped, like, Corvin is a bad guy throughout the book.
Yeah, but you don't know how bad.
You don't know how. But then writing that scene and talking through it and stuff, creating that epilogue at the end of book 1,
Mm-hmm.
we were just like, yeah, he's the bad guy. And he's also, like, deadly dangerous, both as a
Yes.
manipulator and his prowess.
Yes.
Like, he'll actually kill you.
Yeah. He will and can and doesn't mind it.
Yeah. In fact, he derives some satisfaction from it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, just putting that in there at the end was fun, because we first writing it at the beginning, it was, okay, we're going to put this in, let readers know,
Mm-hmm.
but then when we changed it, we're like, yes, total changes. It changes your perception of, man, I hate this guy too. Now I hate him, and I have a good reason to hate him.
Yeah.
So,
Now I know why.
yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was very good. And if anybody listening hasn't read it yet, sorry for the spoilers, but you should still get it.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Go buy our book. So, yeah. So that's the big difference. Plot reveals, plot twists.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, for it to be a good plot twist, you've got to sprinkle things in there. You've got to have hints.
You have to have the foreshadowing. And then on the flip side, you also kind of have to have the impact. Like, if you reveal something and it changes nothing about the story, then it's not a very good one. And same thing with the twist. If you throw something in there and it doesn't change how everybody sees what has already happened, then it's not a good one. So, yeah, you have to have it on both sides. You have to have the foreshadowing to lead up to it, and then an impact to show how it's changed.
Yeah. Question on the twist. Like you said, reveals change the future, twists change the past.
Mm-hmm.
Do twists always change the perspective of everything that's happened?
Yes.
They fundamentally always change
Yeah,
the story.
they change the understanding of the story.
Okay.
Because what you've done is use ambiguity to tell the story and lead the audience to follow it in one direction. And then when the twist happens, it like opens their eyes to see the other layer of the ambiguity and what it meant and the interpretation of it. So
Okay.
it should always shift that.
So would that be like the fundamental defining characteristic that differentiates plot twist from plot reveal? Is you think you wrote a twist, but it didn't change the story, but it's still a good reveal, then what you just did was you just had a plot reveal.
Correct. Yeah. If it doesn't change how a person sees the story, then it's a reveal. Especially if you ask the question at the beginning. So you ask the question, reveal information, then it changes. Like if you know this is the person's killer, now you're expecting them to go catch them. It usually shifts that. But you've known the whole time there's a killer, so it doesn't really change how you've seen the story. With twist, you don't ask a question, you just tell the story, and then at the end, you throw out something that makes them look at the story differently.
Gotcha.
It can affect the future. I mean, like in Sixth Sense, we know that the little boy, he's dead, and now he's going to try and help him and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't affect it too much. It's more just about the past and what's already happened.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. So plot twists, plot reveals. That's your breakdown.
Yes, that's the breakdown. That's now you can sound like an expert if you're just watching a movie, be like, oh, this is a plot reveal, not a twist.
Yes. Yeah, so watch for that. I'm going to watch for that now in
Yeah.
some movies and be like, wait a minute, that's not a twist. That didn't change my perception.
Yep. Exactly.
And we'll have to watch for like book reviews, movie reviews when someone's like, "Oh, that was an amazing twist at the end." I'll be like,
It wasn't.
that was a good reveal, not a twist. Sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. I hadn't thought about like that meaning and implications and everything in story, that aspect of storytelling at all.
Yeah, I hadn't really either. I mean, like I said, I love doing them, but I never really thought about what I was doing. But it's cool to study them, especially like how you have to do each one to make it work.
Yeah.
That way you can be intentional about it and kind of play with your readers.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming and telling us about plot reveals and
No
plot
problem.
twists today.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Jared, any plot twists you have for us over there?
No twists, no reveals. Where can we find you?
LizVerity.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter if you want to get emails on these different writing topics, or you can just browse the blog and see what all I've already written on.
Yes, there's a lot of information out there,
There is.
and it's all very much stuff like this.
Yes.
And all of it, good tips, good tricks, good advice on improving your writing and helping you become a better storyteller. So definitely go check it out and sign up
Yes.
and buy our book,
Absolutely.
Light from Shadows. Go buy it. Well, thanks for coming along with us today, or thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
For you listeners, we have a cat joining us down here. Thank you for coming along with us, and we will see you next time. Till then, go in good spirits. Thanks for listening to the Creators Guild podcast. Don't forget to get your copy of A Flight from Shadows, available on Amazon. While you're there, please rate it and give it a review. If you like the Creators Guild, please like and subscribe, and make sure to share it with your friends. Until next time, go in good spirits.